Well, this is a special edition of The Last Stand. Of course, you know Jay Campbell, one of the foremost authors about hormone optimization, physical optimization, and a guy that knows a thing or two about spiritual optimization as well. And of course, our special guest tonight, nobody in this chat room probably needs an introduction to Robert Stanley. Great guy, great radio programs, interesting. I mean, to say that he's on the cutting edge of investigative journalism within our genre would be an understatement. Robert, so nice to have you back on the New Cosmic Knowledge channel. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me back, Jeff.
Hey, it is my pleasure. And Jay, you sent us a list of great topics tonight. And why don't we just go ahead and jump right in? This is crazy. We've been talking about Babaji. We've been talking about all kind of stuff. And I said, you know what, let's just get right live because and Robert, you made a statement about, what was the statement you made about the dam of disclosure?
I feel like the dam of disclosure has burst, and all the confusion and distractions that were part of it are now being washed away. That's what it feels like to me.
Wow, Jay, how do you feel about that?
So I agree, and I just want to let everybody know that Robert is just an amazing human being, that he's able to get this information out there to humanity, to do what he does. His newest article, which is an updated version of all of the books that he feels is kind of the way to the path of knowledge, or the path of awareness. He's updated it. He's done a great job there. And again, I'm just honored and humbled and blessed to be with both of you guys here tonight as we go through this. I think it's going to probably take us, Jeff, 90 minutes to 2 hours, because I know Robert has a lot of intel from this book. And as you know, I finished the book. I was trying to get through it again. There's so many bullets and discussion points coming from the book. But I do agree with Robert. I believe that this book, if there's anything out there that really settles a lot of scores, it's that.
Wow. Who do you guys really think Babaji is?
Man, he's been part of my life ever since I was born, because my dad was a minister at Self-Realization Fellowship. He had originally been a disciple of Yogananda, but then he became an ordained minister, and then Yogananda passed away and my dad stayed there. Actually, it was my dad and his dad were there at the Lake Shrine and Mount Washington, and they were carrying on the tradition that Yogananda had initiated here in America. Sorry, here. I always think I think like an American, even though I'm in Hong Kong. Sorry.
And Yogananda was the man who wrote the autobiography of a yogi, correct?
Yes, but it was because and he had an interesting life, but his guru, Sri Yukteswar, was in direct contact with Babaji, who told him to write a book called The Holy Science, which you can find in my library. And thank you for mentioning it, Jay. It's actually in my library, but yes, it's sort of like an ongoing article update. So Autobiography of the Yogi is about the life of Yogananda, but also all his contacts, including Babaji, the spiritual lineage patriarchs, specifically his guru, Yukteswar, and Yukteswar's guru, Lahiri Mahasaya, and then ultimately Babaji. But it's always been a mystery. This guy has been a complete mystery. Now, this latest book that I just came across, I think because Babaji wanted me to. I know that sounds weird when I say it like that out of the blue, but there's a backstory for all that we can get into. But the bottom line is this. I came across a guy, an author, who's also an adept in Kriya Yoga, which is what Babaji wanted to bring to the world, especially to the United States for whatever reason, through Yogananda. And so, like I said, I've always had that heritage in the background. I knew of all these guys, and I'd read the autobiography when I was a kid, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I was rereading it on my show the other day, quoting from this one section where Sri Yukteswar comes back after he's physically dead. He comes back to Yogananda and appears to him like a scene out of Star Wars with Obi-Wan. Is like, and he tells him, he goes, look, you're on a physical plane, but when you leave, you're going to come up to the astral plane, and there's various planets and people and whatnot in the astral plane. And then above that is the causal plane, and above that is the divine source. And I'm like, man, I mean, it's like, it was so perfectly clear in my head as I'm reading this. I'm thinking, this is big picture. There isn't a bigger picture than that, right? I mean, this information isn't about religion or politics, although, I guess they're all kind of interrelated, but it's about us. And I honestly don't like the term ascension. but it's something we have to discuss because everybody's thinking about it right now. We got to ascend. Well, guess what? We actually descended down. Our spirit soul descended, our focus actually descended into this realm to germinate as seeds of light. We are actually here to grow to a point where we can actually, yes, it's like ascending, but it's not evolution. We're not evolving. We're just growing. We're developing our true potential.
Wow. So it's more like growing than it is like ascending. And just this, what this is all about. You know, we do a lot of this stuff and we talk a lot of high-minded stuff, but I get a message like this that says, Jeff, Sandra, and Jay, I want to thank you. Your inspiration has allowed me to put down 2 15+ year habits at the same time. You have my unending gratitude. And that's really at the end of the day, what this is all about. And these things that we talk about are what help people get to these places. And Robert, forgive me if I ask ignorant questions because I'm not the smartest guy. Have you ever physically met Babaji?
No, man, that's a really good question, Jeff. Okay, so I told you my story about what happened when I went out of body in September 21st on the autumnal equinox in 1985. I left my body. And I met or was confronted by an individual that was very radiant. Now, I thought that was Enki. I still feel that was Enki, or also known as Lucifer. However, Enki is Babaji's father. And the descriptions of Babaji when he is in his full form is that he is a radiant being as well, which makes sense to me. So now I'm totally confused because Babaji is a title. It's not a name. It means benevolent father. And that's what the being said to me with this entity, when he was right in my face, I said, I'm the father. I don't know what that means. Okay. I mean, you just kind of look like Jesus and wow, you're bright, you know, but it's like,
did he say I'm Babaji and you didn't?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
He said, all it was communicated to me is I'm the father. He started laughing. I woke up. I realized that hours had gone by and I couldn't remember a thing, and I still don't all these years later. However, I told you there was 2 women that testified to me the next day that they had seen me in my spirit body. They thought it was just a dream, but it was actually the next level of reality is what was happening. I was already there. And the reason I was there was because I was practicing a very simple technique that it has profound implications for all of us, and that is Kriya Yoga, which had come from Babaji down all the way into Yogananda through my father into me, and ultimately, so the circle was like that. You know, it's finally starting to make sense to me. Whoever that was, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is there's a connectivity, there's a family a lineage there that I can delineate to you now. I can share it. I can graphically show people, hey, go to my library. Look at these guys. They're all connected to the same thing. This crap about us being like, you know, these different levels and they're aliens or extraterrestrials and we're the lowly workers or hybrids, or that's absolutely ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous. I do think it served a purpose for a time in the sense that a seed is not a freaking tree. Obviously. So, I mean, but it's all connected. There's this connectivity, and that's what we need to focus on going forward. It's not about technology or disclosure, you know, conspiracies and all that stuff. The next level really of our, our growth is to have this realization of who we really are and in the bigger picture.
And I think you hit it on the head when you said a lot of the distraction has been swept away. And I think a lot of it is getting washed away. And Jay, one of the questions that you asked was, and let me see exactly how you phrased it because I thought it was very well put. Is Babaji one of the great spiritual avatars of all human history, on the par of a Jesus, a Krishna, or a Buddha? Would you gentlemen address that question, please?
Well, before you answer, Robert, let me just phrase a different perspective because I want you to answer it. As you and I have talked on our previous podcast, and obviously I always am, you know, talking to Gerald as much as I can about this because he's, you know, a pretty good scholar of Anunnaki, lore and esoteric wisdom and, you know, ancient texts and all of that stuff. I always kind of go back to what's his name, the guy that wrote the ancient teaching of the ancient wisdom teachings. What's the guy?
Manly P. Hall.
Manly Hall. Thank you. He talks about in that great book, in the ancient teachings or the great teachings, whatever it's called, I can't think of it right now. My brain is farting.
The secret teachings of all ages.
Teachings of all ages. He talks about this master interwover. Okay. And and here to me, if we read this book, Babaji, and again, for a lot of you folks that have not read this book, obviously Jeff and Robert and myself have shared this prolifically in the last 4 or 5 days since Robert started talking about it. It's absolutely it's just mind blowing. And it is a little deep. It's a little esoteric. You do have to read this, but for folks like us, we get it. I mean, I read it pretty quickly. There was some stuff that made me like, whoa, but it's mind-blowing stuff. But anyway, to say that, I feel that this book, Babaji, puts all of this in perspective, that what Manly Hall was talking about, and he was talking about Thoth or however you want to pronounce it, which is Babaji. Yeah. And we have different names, as Robert always says, different cultures, different names. It's very difficult to nail it all down. And I'm sure the Anunnaki, both the malevolent and benevolent ones, wanted it to be that way so that, they weren't always going to be understood as the archetypes behind the scenes, the master movers and shakers, controllers, whatever you want. But Robert, answer that. Is then Thoth / Babaji the master shaper behind all of human history?
In recent times, yeah, and benevolent. He is benevolent, where his one of his brothers, Marduk, is actually a really sinister guy. He caused a lot of problems, and
the God of the Bible, right, Robert?
He's not only that, he would be Satan as well. I mean, specifically more Satan, but so he and his cohorts definitely put a really bad twist on spirituality. In other words, all the work that Babaji was doing behind the scene with Jesus, Buddha, and even Muhammad, all that was being distorted in horrific ways by his brother Marduk and all those who followed Marduk and Enki. And so it's been a huge, huge issue for us to struggle through that. And so it's also one of the reasons why all the libraries that Thoth or Hermes or Babaji or whatever you want to call him, he set up libraries around the world for our edification. Those who were initiates that wanted to learn to the higher realms of reality and ascent, or what do you call it? There's that word again. Yep. Aspire to connect and actually be more. I mean, to grow more rapidly. Okay. Absolutely. And so anyway, yeah, he is definitely our benefactor. I do think now at this point, I think I understand why he calls himself Benevolent Father. And by the way, he does have a sister. Right. And okay, Mataji, that's Benevolent Mother. And this is how I found that book, because this, so I was telling you guys off the air, everybody else I think already knows this story if they follow my radio show. Part of me still can't believe this happened because it's so fresh, but there was this Indian guru, or is this female Indian guru named Sai Ma, who had somewhat, she was giving a dissertation and during the question period, someone asked her if she'd ever heard of me. So, okay, well, I think, what they were talking about, what she was talking about was moving beyond the matrix. Okay. I believe that's what she told me. And that's when my name came up. So she asked one of her associates to contact me and see if we could speak. Just because she was seeing things when she claimed, when I finally got her on the phone, she said, I see all this light around you. And I said, okay, yeah, that's nice. And then we got started talking about Babaji. And then she said, I said, oh, you know about Babaji? She says, no, I don't just know of him. I was speaking with him just a few days ago. And I said, what? And I said, well, next time you speak with him, will you please tell him that I send my love? And then I said, oh, and he has a sister. And she said, yes, I know. And she said her name is, and I forget what she said, but it wasn't Mataji. That just means mother. It was, she has a name,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I forget. And she said, and that is my name also.
Oh my.
I know. I had a few of these, the dog does this when they hear this stuff, their head goes, what? I'm thinking, I'm like, what did she just tell me? I guess she was trying to tell me that she was his sister. And because honestly, you think Babaji's been in the background doing stuff? She's one step behind him. Most people don't even know it. But as she was talking to me, as we started talking about Babaji, I flashed back to the what I'd read in the Autobiography of a Yogi, where Mataji calls this meeting between Lahiri Mahasaya, Lahiri, okay, the student of Babaji. They all meet at this one particular location, and Mataji is there, kind of levitating, glowing, and then Lahiri shows up, also levitating, glowing. Here comes Babaji, and he's also levitating, radiant, glowing being. And they all have a meeting, and he says, "I'm going to drop my body. I'm kind of done here. I'm going to go move even further to the background." And she says, "No, please, I want you to stay here please, just keep, have a form, continue to have a physical form here that people can relate to. Only the few that you need to relate to. Please." Anyway. This is flashing through my head as I'm talking to her. And then I invited, this was really totally spontaneous. I mean, it was 20 minutes before I was going to go on the air. And I just said, "Would you mind calling me back so we can talk about more about this on the air?" And I haven't talked to her since. But then the very next day, I was feeling the presence of Babaji as I was speaking to her for some reason. And then, and Yogananda came up, obviously. And then all through that day, the rest of that day, and then into the next day, I'm really sensing Babaji's around, or something about him just won't go away. So I'm mentally putting it out there. I said, "Babaji, who are you?" So, and I sat down, and honestly, here's what I typed in: Babaji, Enki. Click. And now I'm looking at this book about Babaji being an extraterrestrial, specifically the son of Enki. And I went, "What? What? You got to be kidding me." No, so, and again, from an author who is, he is an adept. He is an initiate adept of Kriya Yoga. He's a white guy from America, but he's gone through all these levels of initiation and practice of meditation and yoga.
And this takes like 10, 12 years, right?
Oh, years. It takes, to really, yes. If you want to move up to he had a guru, and he studied, but he also practiced, and that's his life. Okay. I've never heard of the guy, but the fact that now here is another guru kind of guy who is not just talking about the Anunnaki. He's saying, I'm a disciple. I'm a student of Babaji. And I wrote this book about Babaji. And I'm like, what? It's one thing to have to put out the question, but when you get that level of a response, you go, "What the? Really?" So I had to read that for a few days just by myself and not tell anybody what's going on, because I wasn't even sure this was real.
Right.
But then the more I went into it, I'm like, God, this is not only is this real, this is making a lot of sense. So part of what I got out of all this was that, like I said, Babaji, also known as the angel Gabriel, definitely had a hand in helping bring us Jesus.
Right.
Not just bringing it.
And Archangel Gabriel.
Yes. And so not only did he announce to Mary, I think he actually had a hand in the conception, but in a way that it was not physical impregnation. He literally manifested now. Reverend Weissman doesn't say this, but that's what I got out of it when I was reading the book. I could see it very clearly. At this point, I'm connected to something about Babaji is definitely driving me forward, and in a benevolent way. Okay, I'm not his puppet, right. But now I'm starting to see this familial relationship, and then it was clear to me. Oh, you had a hand. You literally were manifesting the fertilization of Mary and telling her you're going to give birth to divinity, to the hope of humanity, because that's the message he gave to me through me back in December 2007. You can see, look, maybe you guys have already heard this before, but you can, if anybody else wants to listen to his message through me on my website at unicusmagazine.com, click on music, go down to the one that says Angel's Prayer.
Right.
It's my version of Ave Maria, but those lyrics were actually given to me I didn't know where until recently. It's the voice. All I knew was the message had come from Gabriel. It's Gabriel speaking to Mary, saying you're going to give birth to the Christ child.
Right.
But in a way that I've never even heard before. And look, I'm not religious. It was really strange when I was getting this message, and tears are coming down my face as I'm writing this down. And I mean, I was just like, wow. So anyway, he not only had a hand in that, but according to Reverend Weissman, it was Babaji was the star of Bethlehem. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a UFO. It was him. This avatar was, and he was the one that directed these so-called wise men, the Magi, into that region and helped that family and then at age 12, Jesus went to Egypt and took his original initiations there under the Hermetic teachings in what was left of that complex that Hermes or Thoth had set up. And then after he was done with that, he went to India and ultimately went through different levels there and met with Babaji, who stayed with him even up until the crucifixion and beyond.
And by the way, that was also very elaborately explained, Robert, in Bramley's Gods of Eden. In Gods of Eden, in Gods of Eden, it's very elaborately explained in where Jesus went to study. And then also Michael Tellinger wrote about that extensively in his book on the Anunnaki too. But I wanted to bring something up. Nick knows this, Robert. Last night, as I was rereading the book, pages 113 to 116 tell a very similar story of him going into the cave and Babaji's sister showing up first, and then Babaji showing up, to the adept, Weissman's guy in the story, whatever his name is again. And I was reading it and my brain was melting. I was texting and I was like, dude, this is like, I feel like I'm there too. And now, so you told me that story. There's no coincidences. We're all being led right now on this for very, very similar reasons. And you're right. It's Babaji. And it's also told Jeff too, is like, I told my wife, because my wife actually told me 4 days ago, out of the blue, that she wanted to get back into yoga very seriously. So as I'm reading that, I'm like, oh my God, it's Kriya Yoga. I have to, this is the thing now.
I just found a place in my new home in Fort Lauderdale
that those 4 pages are so awe-inspiring.
I'll have to go look at it again.
I mean, he talks about the vision that he had and how Babaji appeared to him, and it's very open. And then it goes into the autobiography of a yogi, with Yogananda, but he openly and by the way, it's in autobiography of a yogi. Right. The story is Babaji tells open admittal, like right there, that I am the guy who has been making sure that you guys as human beings found, as you call it, ascendancy, loving vibration, whatever we want to call the higher, density. And it's so awe-inspiring, like I said, to read it right there. It's like this big reveal, and it's been there, but we haven't been able to put it together. And I feel like this book does put it together. And one thing too that comes from David Hawkins that I've been a big student of now that I'm really reading Dr. Hawkins and his level of consciousness. He talks about how Buddha was sent here to teach enlightenment, 1,000-level consciousness, and Jesus was sent, and Jeff and I were talking about this last night, to teach salvation. And again, I don't want people to think Christianity or religious assertion. We're talking about spirituality.
Right.
Wouldn't that be fascinating if Babaji was, as you said, Robert, and I think the book makes a very clear and present case that they were brothers and the sons of Babaji.
Yeah, it's all family, but that's the thing. We're all related. And so why that actually makes more sense to me than anything. This whole division is all that has to end. All the walls. That's why I say it's like a dam. It's got to break. All the denial, all the lies. That's got to stop now so we can heal the cosmic family.
Yeah. So I get this book from Jay. It's really late. And Jay's like, stop what you're doing and read this. Like, okay, so I'm reading it, and I'll be frank with you guys. I'm like, oh, Jay, come on, man.
Yeah.
This is so deep, and it's so weird. And I'm flipping through, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to read this. And then all of a sudden, Robert,
the spiral.
It's just a crazy.
Gotcha.
I've been going through this thing about circles, and it's just been on my mind. And all of a sudden, I think it's page 17. I see these 2 circles, and they're not just linear circles, but they're circles of energy, and then they've got them woven into the
Vesica Pisces.
no, the help me, Jay.
What is it?
Divine
half's black, half's white, and they got the little dots.
Oh, yin yang.
The yin yang. And I had been studying this for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden here it is in this book. I'm like, okay, now I got to read 200 pages of. I mean, this stuff even says it's the esoteric of esoteric stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
This is deep. So I'm all in, even though I didn't want to be all in. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was hesitant too as I was reading it. I didn't like the it's like a professor is, you know, it's very like collegiate in that sense.
It's very textbook
for the layman. Yeah, it's and some of the words I actually had to look up, which is weird considering my level of vocabulary and stuff. I just didn't. But as I pushed through it, I realized
it's not exactly a page turner. I wouldn't call it a page turner.
No. Actually, it's a brain burner, is what it is, because you. In any case, however much time you put into it, that's how much you're going to get out of it, because it is definitely a universe. It's like what it is. It's a catalyst for us, for our consciousness, to actually have these realizations and break down some of the barriers. Because disclosure isn't just about officialdom giving us the go-ahead. It's about breaking down these walls that have been erected, like a maze for us, for our development, our spiritual growth. It's been broken, and again, it isn't just a dysfunctional family. I mean, if you think about it, it's like the worst case scenario is that some of us have been literally ripped from our family, and brought over to this crazy camp and indoctrinated with this nonsense. Wow. So it's very cult-like, the whole thing that has gone on with. I mean, I know they call it organized religion, but I think we should change that to disorganized religion, because honestly, it is, and by design, by the way.
Absolutely.
Right.
By design, because they want it to constantly to be at odds with the other, so that we're like, hey, I don't know who's right here. I'll choose one. Well, now you got the other guys that you're, barking at you. It's like, no, that's silliness.
And since we've been together, Robert, I've actually met and got engaged to a lovely woman, and I'm still like, well, thank you. I'm like, yeah, I need to read this. And all of a sudden she says to me out of the blue, never seen this. She goes, have you ever thought about the spiral? The spiral on the shell and the golden ratio. I'm like, get out of here. It's just confirmation. It's synchronicity. I've got to read it. I got to get into this thing. And the more you read, it's like, okay, one more page. And then you're like, okay, one more page. And finally 150, and you're like, wow.
So the other book,
it's like melting.
The other book that is really essential for people if they want to understand Kriya Yoga, Babaji directed Sri Yukteswar, who is Yogananda's guru. Sri Yukteswar, when he first met Babaji, Babaji told him, hey, you're going to write a book for me, basically, about Kriya Yoga. And that was basically an assignment. He could have said no, but he went for it. All right. That book is called The Holy Science.
Right.
Again, that's another one I got to put on my list.
Oh, you're going to like this a lot, Jeff, because as a minister, you've gone through the ritual of baptism, right? And you understand about being born again in spirit. Absolutely. Okay. The technique of Kriya Yoga, when we create the sound of Om, it's not a word. It's not a title. What it is, it's like, so when you want to tune into a particular frequency, you have to tune up to it, like a radio has to tune into a particular frequency that's out there already. So that's what's happening. When we do that particular technique and say the Om in a way that we're allowing the energy to go through us and change our vibratory rate to a certain thing, and we tune in, when we tune into that, he calls it a river of light. I know it's not just a river. It's a river connected to many other rivers. It's a web of light. But here's the thing. In that book,
he talks about a river of living water flowing out of the belly.
That's what he's talking about. When he's talking about the water, he's talking about that. That's an analogy because how else are you going to explain light to people? They don't understand that light. That it's a light beyond what we normally would see. But anyway, okay. So science calls this dark energy, but it's not. It's dark to us because we have fallen to such a low level. We're like, we're like this, but okay. So how do we get that off?
That's so good.
Kriya Yoga, that particular thing. All right. So about you, here's the hard part. in today's world, unplugging, being in a place where you can really focus and not being interrupted, so that you can actually create this resonant vibration in your physical body, but also realize that it's what you're doing is you're broadcasting in a way, but you're also tuning in until you come into alignment with it. And here's the thing, that when you leave your body and connect with that river of light or the web of light, that is baptism of spirit. That is being born again in spirit. This other stuff that came later, the current version of being dipped in the water, saying you're baptized, that's just it's a metaphor. It's not the reality. That's not, so much of this stuff has been ultimately distorted beyond
deliberate distortion
yes.
and distraction.
Yes, of course, because they don't want, okay, look, they being Marduk, Enki, whatever, the fallen ones,
right,
do not want us to continue our growth. So they've put in these barriers of ignorance, like I said, like walls or dams, firewalls, I guess they call it in the digital world. But the bottom line is we can break through that. And this is explained in I just told you the basic thing, but it's explained fully in that book, The Holy Science.
Wow. So
is the Holy Science on your site, Robert, right now?
Yeah, it's, of course, you can just Google it, or you go into my website at the library. Go to unicusmagazine.com and click on library and scroll down. It's in there. It's all in there.
Yeah. And Jeff, share that link if you don't mind in the chat right now, because I think a lot of the folks that are watching right now really should go and follow some of these books that Robert has cataloged in hierarchy.
You want me to share Robert's link right now?
Yeah, just unicusmagazine.com and click on library. And it's just a quick way of getting there, but it's not, look, a book in itself isn't going to give you all the answers. Thank you.
So here's Unicus right now, unicusmagazine.com.
You're in the library there. Yeah.
I'm in the library. See all the books. If we scroll down, we get to see a lot of great stuff, and then we start getting into the books, The Divine Secret Garden, and this is the book we're talking about.
The book, Babaji, the Extraterrestrial. Yeah.
Babaji.
And by the way, Robert, with the Divine Secret Garden, I put something together last night, and I wanted to bring it up to you, and I don't want to forget, so I'm just going to talk to about it right now. But how about Penella figuring out the divine or the triune with the mother, the Holy Mother, the monad?
Yeah.
There is Babaji's sister right there.
I know. In the background, though, see, because the dark ones have they have a severe distaste for the divine feminine.
Yes.
And they feel that in order to control everything here, they need to dominate the divine feminine.
Why, Robert? Why is it such an assault on the divine feminine?
Because that's not them. And they're actually jealous. They know that's where all creation comes from. If you look at it, just the schematic,
it's absolutely true.
Logistically, everything's born out of the womb, what we call Mother Nature. Okay, it's absolutely. The goddess. Yeah, and so they're not that. So they have come up with this alternate type of reality that is completely male dominated, and you see that in all the religions. The monotheistic religions are all patriarchal. Yeah. Absolutely.
And they have created that patriarchy, chain of command through wars and violence for centuries, eons.
Man, when I see this picture of him, it's not a picture. It's like, I grew up with that. I told you, my dad was a reverend at the Lake Shrine at Self-Realization Fellowship. He was an ordained minister under Yogananda. They were friends, close friends for like 18 years before he passed away. So my dad started when he was a young boy, and he went up to be a young man, and with Yogananda as his spiritual guru, like a second father. But this guy, Babaji, has always been in the background, like hovering behind, and that face is just haunting, those eyes, man. It's just like, and so now
Babaji.
Yeah.
Brother, one of Babaji's brothers is Marduk / Satan.
Correct.
And another one of his father is Enki / Lucifer.
Right.
And Babaji's great grandfather is Anu or Enlil.
No, not great. That would just be grandfather.
Grandfather, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're asking if Babaji might be brother to Jesus and Buddha? Is that what you're saying? Or
No. Babaji is the father of both.
the father? Okay.
Yes.
But divinely the father, as Robert said, like literally a light being divinely inspired to bear both of them. And what if one of them, again, Jesus, was here for salvation of human souls, and try not to think religious.
Right.
And Buddha was here to teach enlightenment, to create ascended masters, because as all three of us have talked about before, without the ascended masters in the background, the entire balance of power would collapse and we would be under the influence fully by the Dark Ones.
Right. And he also had a hand, Gabriel Babaji also had a hand in instructing or attempting to enlighten Muhammad. And unfortunately, whatever he did to enlighten Muhammad after Muhammad died, again, those teachings were taken and corrupted by the dark side. And that's true for, Buddhism as well as Christianity, as I told you before. Now, on the library page that you were looking at, I just want to tell people there's also a link to a YouTube of a song from Supertramp in the quietest moments. Because as I put this out, it's okay. You don't need to show that. I'm just saying it's there.
Okay.
That's a famous, look, that's one of the all-time great albums.
Yep.
It was originally inspired by yoga, specifically the lead vocalist, Roger. His name is Roger. Anyway, he had read Autobiography of Yogi. On that album, In the Quietest Moments, one of the songs is Babaji. I had the album. I don't remember ever hearing it. When I started putting this information out a few days ago, one of my friends wrote me back, Robert, hey, wow, crazy. That's great stuff. Did you know this? Did you know that the Supertramp put this out? So I looked it up last night, and I'm reaching out to this guy, Roger. I'm hoping that he would at least come on the show and tell me what he was thinking. But I know what part of what the backstory is this. He read Autobiography of a Yogi.
Right.
And was so moved by it, specifically by Babaji, that he wrote this song dedicated to Babaji. And you can listen to it for yourself. But these guys were actually in Malibu for a couple of months, my hometown, when they were developing that album, that song. So I'm assured that Babaji and others were involved in that particular album.
Let me give you a little backstory. This will probably amaze you, or at least make you smile. My best friend that I've known since I'm 11, and I just turned 55, so we've known each other for 44 years. He was for a while. Thank you, Rex. Rex says this is like the Three Musketeers of happiness.
Hey, Rex.
I asked Rex if he wanted to link, but he didn't respond. So anyway, he was one of the foremost. He was the foremost Elvis impersonator.
Impersonators, yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah, impersonator.
He was the foremost Elvis impersonator, the first guy to work with Elvis's whole band, became very tight friends. Yeah, worked with Elvis's entire show band, became very close friends with Charlie Hodge, who was Elvis's best friend.
Right.
Standing in Graceland in the bathroom where Elvis died, Charlie's there, all three of us are crying, and Charlie says, Jeff, here's the book Elvis was reading when he fell off the toilet. Guess what book it was?
His Autobiography of a Yogi.
His Autobiography of a Yoga. I'm holding the book that Elvis is holding that's got his drool and spit all over it, standing in the bathroom in Graceland. It was unbelievable.
George Harrison used to give out copies of that book as well.
I bet that one came from George.
It probably did.
We met in Bel Air in 67, 8, I think it was.
Yeah. So Elvis used to go to the Lake Shrine, and he did.
Wow.
And people weren't there for that. They weren't expecting to see him. So it was kind of a good place, especially back in the 60s, I think, when this was happening. He was coming. When he was in Los Angeles, he loved to go there and just hang out and just, chill. He became friends with my grandfather because my grandfather. Okay, so my dad left in 59 after he got married to my mom and started having a family. That's
right.
You can't be a monk or a reverend and still have a family. It's you take your monastic vow, whatever.
Right.
My grandfather continued living there on the property and working as a monk. He was a very friendly man, Adolf. Brother Adolf, they called him. And so somehow he didn't know who Elvis was. He could care less, honestly. And they started to have this friendship. And it's been documented in another book, I forget where, but the bottom line is, and I was never part of that. Okay. But I heard about it later. It's like, oh, your grandfather was friends with Elvis. I'm like, yeah, right. No, he really was. And I was like, so, I mean, because Elvis was looking for spiritual enlightenment or whatever. Good. Great. You can kind of feel it in some of his songs. You could just feel his soul coming through, and that's wonderful. But anyway, yeah, there are, I know artists in general are more sensitive to this kind of stuff. Right. And that's why, like I said, when I first I'm a minor musician, but I do consider myself a composer. And for me to get this message on Christmas in 2007, I was listening to Ave Maria on my iPod, and suddenly like a whole nother set of lyrics was coming into my head, and it was just freaky because that doesn't happen. Never happened before or since. And so I was literally, I told you, I was in tears because this was so beautiful. This message was coming through, and I'm writing it down, and it was, and then I thought, wow, now what?
So in those pages, Robert, that I talked about, 113 to 117, he mentions in the book that when a person's consciousness is elevated to a point, he can walk up and, as you said, we're all connected, and just tap you on the back of the head and download instantly right on.
Yeah. And but see, my confusion, Jay, was that I didn't know why I was getting that kind of a message, because I'm not religious and I'm not Catholic of all things, because it turns out that when the Ave Maria is something that is sung like prior
every
to
Catholic important mass, for sure.
Right. But see, I've only been to one. I was invited by a Native American shaman in Massachusetts when I was living back there. He invited me. He's like, Robert, come experience this with me. And I'm like, okay. And just before they did communion, I said, as they were just starting to go into the communion mode of mass, the people up above us that were the musicians, they went into Ave Maria. And I'm like, oh God, man, it's just like, I'm just sitting there, people are like, whoa, what's wrong with that guy? So yeah, but I still didn't understand it, man. Come on, it's 2007. That's a while that I've been trying to figure out, why was I so motivated or moved, not only to just write this down, but then to produce the song. I mean, I performed it because it was already in me. Whatever that spirit was in me. So I was able to then convey that through me. I knew I was speaking through as like a voice of an angel, which that's a tough one, guys. I mean, it's like, how do you do that? I mean, not that I am, I'm just saying, well, okay, I guess I am. I became the messenger. That's all it means, right? Angel, just Greek. It means so I became the messenger on behalf of Gabriel about that particular event. But I had, up until just a few days ago, I had no idea the bigger implication of, the lineage. And now it finally makes sense. Okay. And I mean, it's just like, I feel so blessed, but I still kind of feel of a burden, which has been going on most of my life. Okay. Now I'm going to tell everybody, whether you like it or not, guess what? And very few people have had a negative response, but I knew this would happen. A few people are like, take me off your list. What the hell is this? It's just like, okay, I get it. Okay. I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything, but it's out there.
So Robert, you said that you thought that Babaji for recent times was our main avatar, for lack of a better word, our main leader. How would you define recent times?
Right. Good question.
Yeah. Well, on the past few thousand years.
Okay.
All right. Buddha was first, wasn't he? I forget that. Wasn't it Buddha first, and then Christ, and then Muhammad?
Robert, I was just in Thailand, of all places, 2 weeks ago, at the big Buddha temple.
Oh, gee, really? Oh, wow. Okay. There's one here on the island. There's
so many pictures. And as I was up there reading all of this stuff, again, there's no coincidences in any of this, but yes, he was before the other avatars. And you are right. This is a new time in epic. We can't go back, as you and I have talked about many times. We don't know time. It's all been skewed. But Jeff, that's a really good question. I do believe that in our current time, meaning sapiens, whatever we are, he has been instrumental. And Robert, just to say right now, because we're right on the point, and it's one of our bullet points. So we know that Babaji is benevolent, but we also know, as we've been mentioning them, we know that the
Can we talk about why Babaji is benevolent?
How did that happen, guys? That's yet to be revealed. I would like to know that as well. But we do know that like families are like that. You can have a bunch of really divine, wonderful spiritual people, and then the one black sheep, the bad apple. This seems to be the reverse case, where you have all these. It's like the mafia. Suddenly, Jesus is born into a mafia family. You know, like, what? So anyway, how did it happen? I don't know. But since you asked the question, I'll bet you the answer comes popping up next, because this seems to be we are living in the apocalypse, guys. This is the age of revelation.
Right.
So Jay, were you going to get to, are they benevolent, and are there
some? So I was going to kind of set it up. So let me just answer that, and I'm going to steal this from Gerald. So if Enki, whoever Enki is, Lucifer, if Enki really was the master geneticist, and we don't know if that's true too, and maybe they all switch roles whenever they want to switch roles. Okay. Yeah. Be one person and a different person at a different time. But whoever the master geneticist was, if we are the product right now, obviously our DNA is evolving because we know that it was tweaked and we were turned off. Some of us, some had more evolution than others. But if our DNA is evolving right now to this ascendant level, whatever we want, I know we don't hate using that word, but this light body, right? If we know that, then maybe Babaji / Thoth / Hermes / Trimestus, all these different names,
right,
was for our evolution. And so the reason that he's being benevolent is because he was the only way we could maintain our evolution in a positive standpoint with all the Dark Brotherhood. Now, before you say anything to that, because I want to set you up to answer that, and then this, let's define the Dark Brotherhood once and for all. Okay. Now I know it's hard and we're guessing, but Brotherhood. The Dark Brotherhood. Now the Dark Brotherhood is the name, and Robert knows this, Jeff, and you should too, from the Emerald Tablets. That's literally, whether the Emerald Tablets is Gnostic disinformation, no one really knows, but that's what they refer to them as. And obviously the Dark Brotherhood would consist of the Archons, the Reptilians, the Greys, and any sinister dark forces that we believe. And they could all be the same thing. But Robert, know that we have some Anunnaki that were clearly helping us evolve.
Right.
Who is, and we know that Marduk is the dark guy and the bad guy, and he's constantly changing names. And even in the book, by the way, and Jeff knows this, Marduk was Hitler, supposedly.
Well, he claims that. I don't agree with it. Hitler was in touch with, anyway.
Well, bottom line is a lot of these Anunnaki have
a thing or two about Hitler, right?
A lot of,
you saw that, huh?
A lot of these dark Anunnaki have manifested themselves or reincarnated themselves into malevolent beings / humans in history just to experience it, whatever. But so how do we classify, Robert, who the Dark Brotherhood are? Are the Archons, because Gerald says that the Archons are the Anunnaki and that we're getting confused trying to label the Archons, because in many of the texts, Marduk is labeled, and so is Enki, as an Archon.
Yeah, it just means Lord.
Right.
And that's what the Gnostics called them. They came later. Obviously, they came later than the Sumerians. Right. After the Sumerians, and that was their terminology for it. And we would have known a lot more if the library at Alexandria hadn't been destroyed. And again,
burn that down, by the way.
Rome, I think, wasn't it?
Probably Christian hordes.
Yeah.
But I think that it was directed from Rome.
Right.
It happened a couple times. It was a massive thing. And it took more than one event to do that. But look, like I said, the libraries were all over the world, in Central America, Asia. There was one particular emperor, I forget his name, but he put out a decree: all the books got to go. What?
Yeah, it was Justinian.
No, in Asia, in China.
Oh,
One of the emperors just woke up one day and goes, we got to get books. What? Yeah. So he was being obviously manipulated by the dark forces to do that.
Had to have been.
Oh, one of the books that people are familiar with is the Book of the Dead. That's also from Thoth. Absolutely. But it's actually pronounced Jed. It's Book of the Jed. And there's a huge distinction between the two. Jed, yes, it's that, because that's all about the spirit rise.
Jedi.
Well, okay. But I mean, again, that's about the thanks. What I'm learning about that is that it's it isn't about lightsabers. It's about us,
Right.
and continuing our path towards spiritual development and growth.
Right.
In other words, the Kundalini rising, that's really what the book was about. It was about Kriya Yoga in a way that's been completely distorted, like everything else over time.
Right.
You know, we talked about DNA changing. Let me ask both you gentlemen, and I mean, I've had a lot of crazy things happen since we were together, Robert. And
Yeah.
Magenta Pixie's been on my channel once. She's coming back again on Friday. And it's weird. She says the same kind of stuff that we say, only she says it in a different language to a totally different audience. But she talks about our DNA changing, and she talks about it literally being changed and reformed into something she calls a crystal light body. Rainbow unicorns, or is she onto something?
Oh my God. Okay. Look, the DNA, according to the research of Wes Penray, DNA was put here by Enki's mother, the goddess.
In Hernsag. Right.
Whatever you want to call her, because here's another one, this character with all these different names.
Right.
But that's the whole matriarchal side that is being completely blocked. And the divine feminine is the origin of all of this. So I think going back to what you'd asked me is, how did Babaji ended up being that way? I believe it was because of his grandmother, the Queen of Orion, actually giving him direction. He was open to it, and she assisted him, just like I've been assisted along my way.
Wow.
I mean, like when I was confronted by Enki or whoever, I still say it was Enki because of the circumstances. I think it really was. But at some point, a few years later, I became suicidal. The goddess that came to me, and she was very simple about it, said, "We will do everything we can to help you if you decide to stay." So, and I couldn't see her face. She was very much in the background of what was happening, but that was a huge turning point because she restored my hope in the future, not just for me, but for us. I could tell, because the main reason they wanted me to stay here was to do this. And without a physical form, I can't do this with you guys here. All right. So anyway, the bottom line is, I always knew after that moment that whoever they are, have been assisting me. I could see that they were true to their word, and still are, because this discussion would never have happened. This book that we are talking about, this revelation of who Babaji is, not just is, but to us, who this familial relationship that has been seemingly broken is now being, and that was the thing about what Saima was telling me, was that it's time for us to embrace our dark side. And I mean, all of us, not just some of us, all of us need to realize that instead of pointing fingers at other people, that we need to look within and find that aspect of us that is distorted and dark, and embrace it and transmute it with love to another level. That's the answer. That's the solution. That's the antidote, which I thought was great, because I'd asked her about the future. What do you see? And she said that was a big step. That was a process that we needed to go through. And it's free will. Look, you do it or not, but to me, it seemed like a really good answer.
Well, Robert, let me just ask you something about that, because the truth is, and again, we've talked about this before, we try to define things as human beings in three-dimensional duality, polarity. And there is no good and bad from a higher dimension. There just is, right?
Yes.
So as we observe from a higher dimension, we try to remove our human hats and look at things from that perspective. And I know it's hard, because in this linear life of duality, we're always trying to label good or bad, light or dark, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if you are looking from above and you, again, removing your human hat, it makes sense. That is true. There's going to be periods of dark, and there's going to be periods of light. And how we define them is only here in linear life, because there is no definition of what is from that higher dimension.
Okay, but I think her point was that not trying to destroy all the bad guys and punish them, because that's a fool's errand. It's literally a dead end, and it's dragging us down. You see the insanity that's happening right now. It is hysteria, by the way, and that is being induced. That is being induced by the dark side, because they want to retain control of us. They want us to stay down here on this lower level of vibratory existence. They don't want us moving up. Yes, fine, ascending. Okay, so when a seed is coming up out of the ground, it becomes a sprout. It's ascending towards the light. But it's a growth process, all right? Our growth has been interrupted. There's a purpose to it, Jay, and that is discussed in the book's Divine Secret Garden.
Yep.
There's a purpose to all this. We have to germinate ultimately and move upward towards this higher realms, these different levels of light and consciousness. But the process she was saying, I thought was profoundly simple and yet amazing. Like, wait a minute, it's too simple. Wait a minute, I know it's going to be tough. Some of us are really going to struggle. Some of us aren't going to be able to do it. They're not, like, have you ever germinated a tray full of seeds? They don't all go up at the same time. They go at their own rate individually. So that's the thing. That's why free will is, we have to respect the fact that there's free will. But since we're talking about hysteria that's going on, I want you to understand it's contagious.
Oh, super contagious.
Yeah. And you can see that. You can see how it spreads. Now, the mental health profession knows this. And they say, so if like one person, let's say I walk into the room and I'm psychotic, I am suffering from psychosis. If I walk into a room and one other person starts to emulate my behavior, they've caught the fever, mentally so-called unstable, that is called hysteria. Right. So if one or more people, so one guy brings it in and others start to feel it, that becomes hysteria. That's technically and see, the mental health profession knows this, but they don't know how to deal with it. So they don't really discuss it much, but that's actually what's happening in the so-called political arena right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert, just a little bit off the track. This is just a personal question.
Go ahead.
Do you know of Lord Shiva?
Allegedly, according to Reverend Weissman, that is, and well, actually, he's not the first person to say this, but Babaji supposedly was Shiva. Who knows? Who knows? Why do you ask?
The reason I ask is because about 3.5 years ago, the woman that I'm now engaged to had a experience just like you were talking about, where Lord Shiva came to her, levitating in a bright body, and had a meeting with her and told her that she was on probation for the 5th dimension and that she needed to get her life together. At the time she was addicted to drugs, booze, a total wreck. And long story short, now she's 3 years sober. And and so you think Lord Shiva was Babaji possibly?
I mean, that's what the public record states, is that, I mean, like, I'm not theorizing it. I'm telling you what other people have claimed. So it's possible. Yeah. I mean, like I said, everybody has the ability to tune in or tap in or reconnect to this web of light. And usually in the current circumstances, we don't do that until we're in a desperate situation. I mean, at least for myself, I'm speaking for myself now, but it doesn't have to be like that, but that's typically how it goes for us. We're stubborn that way. But yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful, and I'm happy for your. Do you say you're engaged now?
I'm engaged. Yeah.
Hey, good for you. So your girlfriend, fiance, is sober. Look, hey, my life. Everybody struggles with different issues, whatever it is: overeating, drugs, sex, you name it. Everybody is challenged in this domain by these various things, and the only reason that we even come here is to overcome and experience this to a point where we learned how to master them, so we are not controlled by them, these desires, these lower desires. We can overcome all of that. And recently I went back to being a vegetarian before all this other stuff. And it was because I was, for some reason, Jay, actually, I think you were part of this. We started sharing these books from India about the higher spiritual teachings. And like, oh, I remember this now from my childhood, yeah, it makes sense to me. And I realized it wasn't just about cruelty to animals. It was about the vibration of meat actually being much lower than other foods. So I just stopped doing that a few months ago. And it definitely made a difference on some level. It's not the complete answer, but it's just, I'm just telling you, we become addicted to all kinds of things if we choose to. We're not forced to. That's the really cool thing about all this stuff. We can choose to not do that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And Jay put this in the notes, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm not trying to be silly or coy or anything. You know, we talked about the Anunnaki, and we talked about some being malevolent. We've talked about some being benevolent. We've talked about the archons. So, I mean, here comes the elephant in the room. What about the reptilians, Robert, and where do they fit in?
Okay, so DNA is neither male or female, reptilian or mammal. It is
Right.
all the above and more in ways that we still don't quite understand. The so-called junk DNA just means it's the part that is dormant or switched off. Some people seem to think that the reptilians are evil. I'm sure that some of them are,
Right.
but I don't think all of them are. And I do think that we're all related. In fact, I know that for a fact. All life forms are related, no matter what the particular form is or format that they take. Everything is consciousness, everything is connected, and everything has its potential that we are not in a position to judge or ultimately control, let alone try and destroy. We're not in a position to do that.
And, you know, I had a rather profound, I call them downloads now. Maybe I'm talking to Magenta Pixie too much, but like a rather profound realization that not only are there some benevolent reptilians, but there are some benevolent reptilian beings that are very, very interested in working together with us for the betterment of this planet and this universe.
Right. And insectoids as well.
Insectoids. Now that's a new one.
No.
Mantids. Yeah.
That's right. That the praying mantis that is like.
I've seen
huge.
one of those. I've literally seen one of those.
Okay.
Yes.
You mean a praying mantis or an actual 8-foot?
I've seen a mantis being back when I was a Pentecostal evangelist. I'm over here casting demons out of this one dude, and over here in the corner, there's this, and I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I never did any, I never touched it. I smoked marijuana maybe 3 times in my life. I've never done any drug in my whole life, and I'm over here working with this dude, and over here in the corner, there's this at least 6'5", maybe 7 foot tall, humanoid type, but a freaking praying mantis sitting there, and it's just like watching me, just observing. And I didn't get the feeling, Robert, that it was malevolent. I thought it was just kind of like, oh, this is rather interesting. Let's see how his technique is. It was like, what the hell?
Jeff, you bring up a really good point. Thank you. They're called the Watchers for a reason.
No, we know they really. Oh, sorry.
Myself. You broke your own code.
Put a nickel in the jar there, Jeff. Okay. Look, they call them the Watchers for a reason. Obviously, they're watching. But we know from our scientific experiments, what they call the slit experiment, that the observer affects the outcome.
Yes.
It's not like, so you think they're just sitting there passively, but in fact, part of their consciousness is interacting with our consciousness. It's not like they're sitting there just doing nothing. There is a level of interaction there, and that definitely has an effect as opposed to them not being there. Okay, so that is actually a very important point, a distinction that actually came up to my mind the other day, and I wasn't sure how I was going to explain it, and here you gave me the opportunity to do that.
And it's so bizarre. It was like he was standing there kind of like, just taking notes.
Yeah. Well, there's that too. I mean, obviously we're all like, yeah, of course.
He was a watcher. He was just observing. Are all the watchers
benevolent? No, I mean, but they are watching for us. And the ones that's just a small group, the ones that we can consider to be that.
Wow.
If I understand what Yukteswar told Yogananda, now after all these years reading it again, and in fact, reading it to the public on the air, that was kind of weird. And it's not a good thing to read books on the air, but I've been doing that occasionally. These different realms. It's like, okay, so when you're down here in the lower realm, it's rare to be able to see up.
Right.
Okay. So, but when you move up, now you can see down to the lower level, but you still can't see the other one that's slightly above you and above you and above you. It's just like, that's the dynamic. Okay. So, I mean, maybe they are learning something. I kind of doubt it. I do think that they're just watching us because, again, why do they care? Because we're all connected. We're all family. We all come from the same source, and we're all growing. Our consciousness, spirit, whatever you call it, is definitely connected and growing together. and separately at the same time. That's the cool part of it. That is the really very fascinating. That's why it's so dynamic.
So Robert, one other thing, just to add to what Jeff just said in the book, which fascinates me, again, from Wiseman,
whatever.
Wiseman, Weishaupt, is he talks about the hierarchy. And, you know, this is one of the points, but he has two distinct hierarchies of transdimensional angelic beings and the empirical, as he refers to them,
yes,
extraterrestrials.
Yes, he makes that distinction. It's very helpful.
It's very helpful. I have not seen a book that was able to kind of seg or, you know, hierarchically classify all of these different beings, right? And again, I always go back to Charles Fort. I'm a huge student of Charles Fort, and he would say, all I know is the Earth is a G-damn zoo.
Well, he also said, but Jay, he also said he thought we were someone's property.
Someone's property.
Wow. Yeah. And now that's a very dark view of it.
That is.
Okay. So, but when you set up an empire and you have that hierarchy there, all the subjects are the property of the crown.
Right.
But they don't own our soul. That's the physical. We're looking at just a very low level, like the scum on a pond. It's like, that's not reality. That's just an illusion. But it serves a purpose. As I told you before, everything about where we are in this matrix at this particular level of creation is it's about competition and control.
It is.
And as we break free of those
relationships, Robert.
Wait, what did you just say?
Competition and control, even in our romantic.
Oh, yes, especially that what they call the power struggle. If you've ever gone through counseling,
that's why they are so screwed up. And the light just went on to me. For 20 years, I was a Christian preacher, and it's been almost 20 years. I've been out of Christianity almost 20 years, but it wasn't until yesterday or a couple of days ago that I finally, I think, got the last bit of Christianity out of me.
You mean the dogma?
The dogma.
Yes, your karma ran over your dogma, and you're free now.
That's awesome.
And it's this competition and control, even in our most intimate of relationships.
Well, especially there. No, especially there, because that's where we're most vulnerable, is with the people we love. You know, have the most influence over us. Absolutely. Or I should say, we permit that. You know, so and that, yes, of course, is a challenge, but. And Jay and I talked about this too. He came up with the term spiritual fitness, which I love. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's really cool because I hadn't thought of it that way. But I was giving him the analogy that, you know, these challenges are a lot like when we go to the gym and we lift weights and we constantly move up to a higher level in our fitness, right? Strength, endurance. But and Jay said, no, that's true for the spiritual realm as well. Spiritual fitness. I thought, oh, right. Yeah, of course. You know, what doesn't break you makes you stronger. And so this is what we're going through. But look, all this that we've is preparatory. There's something else. The reason this is coming out now is because there's something else. There's more.
So,
there's something coming that we need to have this level of awareness in order to be able to deal with what comes next. I don't know what it is. Okay. And I'm kind of glad I don't. I just sense that there's a purpose to all of this because that's how they operate. The benevolent ones, they're very gentle, subtle, but specific. They're very focused on whatever it is they're manifesting or achieving at the moment. They're not
controlling, are they, Robert?
No, absolutely not. That's how you can tell the difference between the dark side and the light side. And since you brought it up, the Jedi. The Magi.
That was Jay. He brought it up.
I know. But if you go to my the homepage for Unicus Magazine and click on radio, you'll see a picture of me dressed up as a Jedi, and that is a real lightsaber. I mean, it's not a toy; it's a collectible. That I'm really hoping.
All Robert.
I mean, just be glad I don't have a real one, guys. Okay, but I mean, it looks like a real one, and it gives you a chance to understand where I'm coming from. At this point, I understand I'm doing the work of the Jedi. The real ones, not the one from Hollywood.
Yep.
And the subtitle of the show is Exposing the Dark Side.
But I need to introduce you to my friend Halo Marquise. You two would have a close fellowship around that.
Well, go ahead, Robert.
Sorry.
You go.
You first.
Go. No, go.
You're the guest, Robert.
We're doing the chipmunk here, Alvin. And so we got to move past just the focus on the dark side. You can't, expose that you can only get so far exposing the dark side. Then you have to give the alternative. And that's why I'm so excited about this stuff that's coming in now, because honestly, the dark side, think of one of the things that Yukatswar said to Yogananda, which is exactly like what other researchers have said, insightful books that I have there and researchers. Where we are now is just a tiny little fraction of all that is.
Oh, yes.
Okay? So once we graduate from here, man, I'm so excited. I'm always known that we have this incredible potential to keep growing, but it's been sort of inhibited. Once we break free from that barrier, man, it's just going to be wow. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So no longer will we have to struggle through levels of competition and control. There'll be other challenges and more I think it'll be more of a personal thing. In other words, we're going to get a lot of support as we move beyond this particular level. And so my intuition is that we're about, not only is the disclosure dam about to burst, but there's something else is going to happen. It's going to allow us to really move up to a whole nother level of awareness and being.
Hey, so what I was going to say, just to comment on this exact thing, because I agree 100%. We all of higher conscious beings, and I know that everyone that watches Jeff's show and people that listen to you, we're all similar vein in nature, and we all feel it. It's a palpable feeling in the air. Also, this cosmic energy, however you want to define it, a lot of people's relationships are unraveling right now. There's a lot of turmoil, which, as you said, Robert, that's the gift, right? Like I say in my book, the gift is in the what. It's in the contrast. Every great spiritual teacher has ever said that. Yeah. Do you have a comment, by the way? And Jeff and I didn't even talk about this, and I'm just throwing this out there right now, but as you know, or probably know, because it's a big talk in our community, David Wilcock left Gaia. Okay. And
he also left Malibu, which I applaud him for doing that after he got remarried.
So a lot of people have been saying in the last 2 or 3 years that David Wilcock is disinfo because of how Ancient Aliens jumped the shark. They had great episodes, and then all of a sudden it started going deep down the rabbit hole. Do you believe, and I watched a video today, I sent it to Jeff. He probably didn't have time to watch it because he's broadcasting all day live. The guy's an animal, but the guy that does Christian, what's his name? The Ranger, Health Ranger, that publishes natural news. Great guy. Very, very, very high conscious guy. Very much like us. Definitely not part of the dark side. He said, look, I have to give him credit. I don't know if David was, influenced by the Illuminati, the dark forces, whatever. He calls them the Luciferians. But by him walking away from this, because it's his only source of income, it does make a point that David does stand for us, which is human truth and awareness and conscious expansion. Did you want to comment a little bit about maybe that?
Well,
do you think he's like you and us, that he feels that we're really close and he doesn't want to be associated with that?
I can't speak for David. I hope that he does well for himself. I'm glad that he's having these realizations and waking up to these truths. I'm not sure he fully understands what Luciferianism is, because I don't spend all my time reading his website. So the guy writes these blogs that just go on forever and ever and ever, and I just don't have time for it. But as you guys know me, from what I've said before about Malibu, I mean, he was living in Topanga Canyon. That's where I actually came into this lifetime, was Topanga. It's radioactive. From various events that have taken place near there. There's a lot of dark entities there. And so I feel, from just briefly what I know, I've seen, all of us are vulnerable to manipulation. Yeah. Especially if we are egotistical. And that is one thing that a character trait I've noticed in David. It just,
good point, Robert. That's a really good point.
So it leaves him open towards further manipulation by these dark forces, thinking that he is doing good. What they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I've been down that road. I think we've all taken a trip on trail. So yeah, I'm glad that he's waking up to it, and I wish him well, because I know he struggles. We all do. Like I said, that's why we're here. There's part of this is it's universal for us. It's not like, you can't buy your way out.
Right.
And so, and there is no power structure set up to actually grant us immunity, or more importantly, to get us to the next level. That's something that we have to make a choice and then actually put effort into it. Like like you do with your fitness. The spiritual thing is actually more difficult in some way, because it's all like we were saying before, you can't exercise unless you make the choice to do that. Right. And then when it hurts, you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to work. I'm going to push through this. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. That kind of willpower, it's the same thing has to apply for your spiritual fitness when you're getting bombarded with all this stuff, all the dogma, all the politics, whatever distraction is going on in your mind, your soul. You have to break through those barriers in order to get to that next level.
Absolutely. Is there some kind of another end of the world event on July 19th? I've seen a couple of people ask, what about July 19th? What about July 19th? Did I miss something?
There's always one coming.
Yeah, there's always going to be another challenge like that. And, but who knows? Look, the fact is we can only live one moment at a time. Yeah. I try not to think too much about what the future is, other than that. As I said before, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic, actually, that we're finally having this level of conversation about who we really are and where we're headed. And this nonsense right now, this other distraction about the Space Force and about going interplanetary with Elon Musk and Bezos and all those billionaire bozos, I'm not part of that. I comment on it because I see the folly in it. It's ridiculous that they don't understand that they're being used, and that a lot of people are going to participate in that little dog and pony show. But to me, it's just it truly is a dead end.
Yeah. And Robert, something strikes me. Every time I'm on Coast to Coast, George Norrie always says that of all the people I talk to, Jeff, you're one of the most optimistic guests that we ever have. There's no doom and gloom. You always are optimistic. You always have hope. And you sound a lot like that too, Robert. You have an optimistic, this is going to work out okay, everything is good outlook. But while having a very real world outlook as well. And I appreciate that. And has it percolated down to you now to where you've decided who Enki is?
Well, you have to give me a little more to go on there. What do you mean, who he is?
I mean, you've obviously been thinking about this for years and years, and now the whole Babaji thing comes in. But have you kind of decided what that experience meant? And
that one.
Yeah.
No, I see. That's the thing about me. I'm not fixed in my belief. I really don't have a belief system. I think it's dangerous in the sense that once we are fixed about a certain thing, it doesn't allow for new information to come in. So I research everything. I believe nothing, including my own conclusions. Honestly, the assessment that I have now of the situation, it's subject to change like this. And that's one of the reasons I feel like there's always more coming in. Part of it too is I've agreed that I would share it with everybody as I find it. I'm putting it out there, and I think that leaves the conduit wide open. There's no censorship. But yeah, look, I don't agree with everything that Wiseman says in his book. Some of the things like Hitler, I don't agree with that, whatever. John Pinella's Divine Secret Garden, fantastic. But all of it, no. Wes Penry's the same way. And I don't know what's happening with him, but he also went through a relationship change recently. And you'll see some of his video. Some of the video out there on YouTube that's attributed to him, some other people produce that stuff. And they're focusing only on the early work that relates directly to Sitchin. So in other words, they're parroting that whole Luciferian thing again, the Enkyites, whatever. But more recently, though, Wes has teamed up with another woman. He seems very happy. He tells me he is, so God bless him. But they are putting out video that some people are asking me, what happened? Why is he giving out a different message now? Well, he's evolving, and he's with somebody new, and he's, hey, you can change your mind. I mean, I think we should. It's pretty healthy to do that. So, but yeah, I appreciate you asking the question, because I asked that myself that a lot. It took me 29 years to even come to the point where I could realize or believe for a moment that, wow, okay, that was Enki, and here's why. You know, he would even take the time to get into my face like that. And anyway, yeah. So who knows? Who knows? But now for sure, I can say Babaji has been integral part of all of this, not just my life, but all of our lives, for a relatively long time, as far as Earth, the way we measure time.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful that he would reveal himself at this particular time through whatever means. It's an indication that we're ready.
Right. Well, one of the things David Hawkins shares, which is perfect to switch topics right now, because actually David Hawkins, if he was a great spiritual avatar, guess what? He was Babaji too.
David Hawkins
was Babaji, as I always tell Jeff, and I want to bring this up because, we always talk about all these amazing things and then we want to give solutions. David Hawkins' solutions for raising to a light body, to raising your level of consciousness to a loving vibration, 3 things, right? Very important. Number 1 is to serve other people with peace and kindness. Number 2 is to practice love or lovingness. And Robert, you and I talked about this on your show before, as a state of being, not love as romance or romantical, or it's just love for all of life, all of sentient life. Have a respect and a love for. And then the 3rd one is forgiveness. And he talks in the books that forgiveness is usually the hardest thing because you have to forgive your enemies.
Yeah, and yourself.
That's the biggest, most important thing, because people don't love ourselves. That comes from abandonment complex as a child.
Yeah, and it's a barrier. It's a self-imposed barrier. When we can't forgive or choose not to forgive ourselves, we can't really move forward emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. And it's also very toxic. So now, look, those are good points for me. I think I've told you guys this before, probably ad nauseum, but being kind, yes. Being calm is really important. Sure. Especially in the midst of a crisis. Being creative. Those are the 3 that because that's what leads us to the creative. Excuse me. That's what gives us a greater degree of connectivity.
Yes.
Okay. So aside from doing the whole Kriya, Om to the light, those 3 things are very simple because it has nothing to do with politics or religion or finance or whatever. You can do that. Yes. Be calm, be kind, and creative. 3 simple things. It sounds really simple, maybe too simple, but honestly, if you do that, the more you do those things, the more connected you are, not only to everybody around here, but the higher realms as well.
Well, that's my biggest issue in life is being calm, because I'm a very high energy, very animated person.
Really?
No,
there's a time and a place for it. Yes, I understand. There's a time and a place for everything, but what I meant was the opposite of being calm is being crazy, like the hysteria that people, if you can remain calm in the midst of a crisis, absolutely, other people will feel that. So like I told you, it's what do you call it? Contagious. When some crazy guy walks into the room and people start picking up on that crazy vibe. Well, but if you're calm, if you're very focused and centered and calm for a reason, because you choose to be, other people feel it too. And they start to resonate towards that. And that is really important. Being kind is the same way. It's contagious. If you in the midst of a riot and you're being kind to somebody and somebody sees that, they want to go that way too. So you're leading by example, basically. And creativity, that also is contagious. And here's why: because we were created by a creator to be creative.
Absolutely.
As we move to those higher realms, our levels of creativity, our ability to manifest with our consciousness becomes greater and greater and greater. This is a co-creation, okay? This is a co-creation. We are co-creators. We are gods as well. So that's it's pretty damn awesome, guys. Honestly, the fact that we're having this conversation, I'm just so excited.
Robert, I just literally put on all my channels that this is one of the most profound consciousness podcasts ever. And honestly, and I want you to know that what I just said was not you challenging you. I was saying that is an amazing statement to me, because that is what I struggle with. And Jeff knows that I'm so high energy all the time that I do have to learn to be observant / calm, tranquil at all times. It's just like the great Confucius statement of, is that so to every element of life, regardless, you just won $1 lottery. Is that so?
You just triggered something in my mind about the force. Most people don't understand that you can't force the force. You have to go with it. You have to flow with it. You have to, all right? You can work with it. You can get it to work with you, but you cannot force it. So
we all try to.
We all, in this level, we do. On this level, we do, but we can tap into it. Again, being calm is part of it, and kind and creative. All those things are very positive things. So we can, when we tap into the light side of the force, is very benevolent, and it is resonant. It's not dissonant at all. The higher we go up into those realms, it's definitely it's all about resonance and harmony and cooperation. What do they call that when you work together with somebody? Anyway,
co-creation.
Yeah, we just said that. There's another word, but the bottom line is this: you're tapping into that energy, Jay, and it's awesome. It's just how you want to direct it at any given moment. That force is with you at all times, and as long as you're feeling very positive about it, it's a good thing, you know. But if it's the moment we start to, and I used to have a very bad temper, and yes, I was a really very nasty person at times, verbally. And so when I was pissed off, because there was a lot of things bothering me. It's not that I'm a mean person. It's just that, and my son noticed this too. He says, like, you're never very happy, are you? You know, it's like, well, I don't want to burden you with my crap, son, but, you know, I deal with a lot of issues that are global. You know, you're focused on just having fun with your friends. I'm trying to save the world, you know. And I mean, I didn't say that he wouldn't understand it.
Right.
So I wouldn't bother him with it.
What you just said is so profound. Again, let's stay there because it's true.
Okay.
Because people like us are intense. Jeff's intense too.
Yes, that's the word.
But the intensity of who we are is because we do care.
Yeah, we're passionate. Yeah.
We do want to help other people expand who they are as human beings. It's not selfish to be that way. But a lot of people in the matrix, you're right, Robert, and Jeff has said this to me 1,000 times, are so controlled by that low vibration that being intense for trying to help other people is taken as bad or negative, or, you know, you're just impossible to be around or whatever they say.
Right. And it actually has the reverse effect of what you're intending when you're trying to help people like that, and you come off as being whatever, that it repulses them because it's actually scary for them. Okay, they're not ready to wake up and move to the next level. They're busy working on their whatever it is.
Exactly.
So, but hey, look, a lot more people have woken up since my first a big awakening in '85. Between 85 and 87 and 2012 was a big window of awakening. But now we have to deal with something whole nother level. And that this is part of it. This is definitely part of it. And it's a blessing and a burden, honestly, what we're doing here. It's like, it's wonderful to be able to do this and share this with people. But at the same time, it's like, this is all consuming for me. Yeah, I've got a life. I got a family. I have a regular job. But this is more important to me than anything, honestly.
Same as me.
Robert, would you recommend that people seek communion with Babaji?
Yeah, if they want. I mean, I don't think they should worship him. That's a term that literally means to work for, unless you're going to work towards a common goal, which is everybody becoming enlightened. You know, enlightenment is not the same as mastery. You know, once you've seen the light, then you have to become it. And there's the challenge, especially like if you're still here in this physical realm, you're going to find the level of challenges are actually increased, not decreased.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's like anything else, you know. It's but yeah, I do feel that he is benevolent, and so is his sister, Mataji, or whoever she is, as well as the queen, his grandmother. There's issues with these other guys. I do think they're playing roles. I think this is all permitted to happen, as John Pinella talks about, that the higher realms actually see this as necessary for our growth. It's a way of germinating and stimulating us to grow beyond the seed stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How much, and I'll make this up my last question. I don't know if Jay has one. Do you think, Robert, that there's time travelers within our realm, and how much of an effect are they having?
Oh yeah, yeah, that comes up. Yes, there's multiple timelines. There's multiple, actually there's an infinite number of universes as well.
Right.
As well as the dimensions. It's really very dynamic, as I said before. So, yeah, of course there's time travelers, as we would call it. This particular timeline is artificial. It's very narrow, or I should say confining, and it's not real. It doesn't reflect the bigger, I mean, even Einstein tried to allude to that, but I mean, it's a profound barrier that we need to break out of here.
Absolutely. Jay, what do you have?
I mean, this is, again, I'm very honored and humbled and blessed to be here today. This is epic, man. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm getting feedback from a lot of people right now that are sending me messages that are saying, you guys, man, thank you. It's really, really good. We're like you said, Robert, the dam is breaking.
Yeah.
And we're able to have these conversations and not have our frequency jammed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my question would be for this. I think we've already given perfect solutions on how people can behave to increase their light body and advance their consciousness. But where are we? We all agree that the positive side is winning over the negative side, however we define that. Where do each of us kind of see, if we're going to give timelines? And yes, you just said it perfect, Jeff. The timelines are going to be changed and can be changed. But where are we, if we're going to define it again in duality, in a time? Are we going to see something, a societal shift, a massive transformation in under 5 years, or longer than 5 years? And I know it's just a guess, but what would you say, Robert?
Yeah, the way it was described to me, excuse me, when I asked about when the time frame, I asked in 2013, how is this going to be resolved? And what I saw was these waves of energy washing over the planet and people waking up. And to me, it looked like it was happening very quickly. But then again, it was just kind of this download sort of like video clip. And I saw a lot of people were happy about waking up. Others were like, whoa, I can't deal with this. I'm going back into denial, don't wake me up right now.
It's a lot easier to deny.
Yeah, but we can't keep coexisting in this particular realm together.
Right.
Those of it, in other words, like we have to graduate, move up, so that we can continue our growth, because those others would be inhibiting us.
Right.
So we're going to be transplanted. That's the cool thing about it. I don't know if you guys ever do landscaping or gardening or whatever, but so you see the healthy sproutlings, you take them out, you put them into their own little individual whatever, and then they start to flourish and thrive, whatever. And so that's what's happening to our souls. But the time frame I was shown was no later than 2022. Things were going to continue to accelerate to the point where everything has, everything's out. The cat's out of the bag. The genie's out of the bottle. I don't care how you call it. There's no going back to the old realm of the dark side. Basically has lost control over, I don't know what the numbers are kind of irrelevant. To me, it seemed like a majority. But that's again, I'm very optimistic. But it's enough. It's enough. Even if it was only one, it would still be better than none. So, right. But I do feel, especially now that I've been doing my radio show and I'm getting email from people all over the world.
Awesome, man.
I was before, but now they're just, I don't know. The feedback is really coming a lot faster. And so I sense that they're, it gives me a diagnostic of the consciousness of some of these people, our brothers and sisters around this world. They're definitely waking up, or they're awake. And now they're awake. They're like, okay, where am I? Where are we going here? Are we there yet? It's like, so they're asking really important questions, and it's a beautiful thing. Honestly, it's a wonderful thing. And like I said, I'm really excited about all this, because I know the future for those of us that want it, that to make the choice to move to a higher level, it's going to be amazing. Honestly, words just can't really describe it.
So that's a question I wanted to add on to your answer right there, because I agree. So the people that aren't choosing to move up, mm-hmm. What happens to them? Because that's every question that Jeff and I get from people.
Yeah.
I know you're just guessing, it's a little supposition, but what do you think happens?
I think they stay basically in the matrix. And there's a control system here set up just for that, to continue that particular look. It's like if you don't graduate a certain grade level in school,
Right.
you stay back.
Right.
And that's really how it goes. I mean, that's not a great analogy, but it's some souls here just aren't ready to move up yet. They're not comfortable with it. And so they're just going to stay here in this particular realm. And I don't know what happens to them. I think that's, you know, it's kind of up to them to tell you the truth. Really, it's look, there's a divine grace in all of this. If you look for it, and you wouldn't see it if you're only watching the news or, you know, just surfing the net. And so that's why we have this alternative news, or what do they call it? Alternative media, right? And yes, there's problems with that as well, naturally, but we have to have these levels of discussion because it's going to stimulate further discussion with other people, and then realizations happen, and then they can make choices based on hopefully authentic and accurate information.
Absolutely.
These insights that we're having. Yeah. It's not just for us three, it's for all of humanity.
Absolutely. Robert, where can people hear your radio show?
Oh, man, this is kind of mind-boggling too. I'm actually one of the top people on KGRA.
No kidding. Great.
Yes, I know, but that's weird because I was on a show, and during the break, I was saying to the producer and the host, I was like, I'm thinking about doing my show again. And they said, what? Oh, you should come on here. Is it really? And they literally moved 2 shows over and put me into the primetime slot right after Don Ecker. So anyway, if you listen to KGRA, I'm on Friday and Saturday night from Eastern time. It's 10 to midnight, Fridays and Saturday. But you can go to the archive and listen to the show there anytime, which is great too. That's the other great thing about the digital age. The shows aren't lost now, thank goodness. You don't have to listen live if you don't want to. You just listen at your leisure. And I listen to stuff all over the world on just the stream. Radio is dead. I'm sorry, but terrestrial radio is a joke. In fact, every terrestrial radio station has a stream now, or they're completely irrelevant. So, or you can also tune in through my website at unicusmagazine.com. Click on radio. I've got all the links there if you need it, as well as some archive. Some of my other shows before I went to KGRA recently. I think I've been with them a few months now. And coincidentally, behind the scenes, guys, as soon as I went on there, I was contacted by somebody trying to tell me, you shouldn't be there. It's not a good place. You know, they're just like, this is not a good place for you. You really should go somewhere else. And I'm thinking, and this wasn't coming from KGRA. This was just a competitor.
Right.
And I'm really glad I didn't listen to them. I could see it. It was pretty transparent, actually, that they didn't, whoever was kind of concerned the fact that I'd gone, yes, I do interviews with you guys, and that's great. But now to be in that level, that team of a regular weekly show.
It's awesome, brother.
That's a really good station. And yeah, I think it concerns somebody, and they're like, "Oh, you don't want you sure? I don't think you really want to go there." Anyway, yeah, I'm having a good time. It's definitely, oh man, I swear to God, you guys, I don't know what comes next, but I know it's good. It's going to be amazing, honestly, for all of us.
I echo that. Jay, where do people get a hold of you, brother?
Everybody can find me. Easiest way, if you're into alternative optimization, watch our podcast every Wednesdays at 4 p.m., sometimes 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with like the top optimization doctors in the world. That's on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/TRT Revolution. You can also find me on Twitter, which I have a pretty decent following, even though Jeff knows I get shadow banned on Twitter whenever I post about this. Robert, we were literally blocked posting about this today on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I measure my impressions, and I know when I post exactly what I'm going to get. And when I have something massive like this, which was a massive thing, and it was like almost 120th of my normal impression. Twitter is definitely controlled by the dark forces. I don't care that it is. So
Yeah.
But I'm at TRT Expert on Twitter. And then, of course, you can always email me. It's jay@trtrevolution.com. Like Robert, I pretty much respond to majority of messages, but I don't get back to you right away now because since I started talking to you guys, I'm like you guys now too. I get so many messages, I can't keep up with them.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And we're all blessed. And I agree with you, Robert. And again, I just want to say I'm very humbled to be able to continue to talk to you personally. It's amazing. And I have mad love for you and Jeff. And hopefully we can just continue these conversations. And at some point, we're all in our light bodies hanging out around a bar.
You got that, man. Absolutely. Looking forward to that. I mean, it's already, look, as soon as you make a choice like that, you've already initiated the process. So yes, we're definitely going to get together and hang out in some astral plane or whatever you want to call it.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Robert and Jay, it's been a privilege to be with you. It's been an honor. It's been a lot of fun as well.
Thanks,
I hope that we don't, I hope this isn't the last time we do it. I hope it's not as long as it was, Robert, since I last saw you.
Okay.
And thanks again.
You look good, Jeff, by the way. You look really good.
He's lost 50 pounds.
I've lost about 50.
Is that what it is?
I lost 50 pounds of fat, and I probably put on maybe 10 to 12 pounds of muscle through this guy's tutelage.
Awesome. Cool. Good for you.
Yep.
Wow.
So I owe it all to Jay Campbell.
No, you did it, man. I just gave you a tip. Great.
Excellent.
But thank you, Robert, for mentioning that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's a privilege to have you on. You as well, Jay. We'll be back again with more The Last Stand. Watch Robert on KGRA. Get a hold of Jay at TRT Revolution, and you know where to find me. And until next time, folks, the divinity in me does recognize the divinity in you. And even though it is silly, I know that it is actually harmonically and frequent and a sound frequency for me to say love and light. So I'm going to say love and light to everybody anyway. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Yeah, if you'll sit right there, I want to say goodbye to you personally, and we'll see you again real soon, folks.